Hello and welcome to Truth Xpose TV. Today I have a wonderful guest with us today. We're going to be talking about dyslexia and what it's like living with dyslexia, the truth about dyslexia, what is it all about. We have the wonderful Sandy Hobley who is with us. She is from Brisbane. She's the author of several books and she is also a keynote speaker and founder of Belief Systems magazine. Hello and welcome, Sandy.
Hey, how are you today?
I'm great, thank you. Thank you so much for joining us, and thank you to everyone who's watching this right now. It's really fantastic to find out more about dyslexia because I believe a lot of people have dyslexia and maybe some of them don't even realise that they have it. Sandy, would that be correct?
That's definitely correct. I work in probation and parole and child protection, and a lot of people come in and the case managers go, "There's something just not ticking right, Sandy, and can you just work out what's going on for them and how we can help them?" And so because I carry a cohort of learning issues, dyslexia being one that was the most profound for me through the years, it's been an interesting journey with that. And so now I get to unpack it for people and work out what's going on in their life. It can cause some pretty serious major health issues as well as just having a disconnect from language.
Okay, so for those who don't know what dyslexia is, maybe that's a good place where we can just say, okay, what is dyslexia? How does it impact people? So if you could just share, what is dyslexia exactly?
The word dyslexia comes from a disconnect with language. It basically means that you struggle with the written language in all forms.
Okay.
And from that, it can cause some pretty serious anxiety when our communication is definitely in written form, like emails, programs, books. A major communication style. So when you've got to disconnect from it, it causes a fair bit of anxiety and stress, especially for young children.
Okay, and how common is dyslexia in the community?
A lot more common than people think it is. Because it sits under the mental health care banner, people don't see the relevance of it, and they just turn around and think it's just the children that struggle with spelling, or they write letters around the wrong way. That's one of the big things I get told is, well, that's where you write the letters around the wrong way, isn't it? And it's like, no. If it was just writing the letters around the wrong way, it's an easy fix because you just think about it in a mirror in your head and click them. It's a complete disconnect from the language. So the word doesn't have any meaning behind it. So
Okay.
words like be, and, at, is, there's no picture we can put behind the word. So because there's no picture like house or cat or dog, you can put a picture behind it. It's easier to use and utilize. But no picture behind the word doesn't mean anything to us. It's just a lot of dyslexics have a major issue with commas, full stops, all the grammar, all those sort of things.
So you think in pictures mostly? Would that be true to say?
Yeah, I have ADD in my mix, and most dyslexics have an ADD or an ADHD mix. And in that, we're very fast and we convert everything to pictures. We can have a whole conversation just using pictures, and we don't need to finish a sentence because we can use enough picture words with the whole picture. So it can drive people a little crazy because you get a room full of dyslexics and they'll just talk and not finish one single sentence because we don't need to. No need to finish a sentence. We understand what each other's saying using less words. If you struggle with them, you try and shorten them or not have to use so many of them to get your message to your market.
Okay. So you've written some books on this topic. How long have you known that you had dyslexia?
interesting thing is, I used to think I knew at age 2, and people would go, not possible. But I work with a lot of people in the dyslexic field, and they turn around and go, yeah, 2, 5. But most of us come back with, at 2, we knew we functioned differently, we did things differently. We had to watch everything, be able to use the information. But by 7, school starts picking it up, because you start having, instead of just your single letters, you're starting to go into words, but then you're starting to go into sentences. And that's where you really start to struggle. So by 7, the school system definitely started picking me up. Because I struggled so badly in school, I got my older girls, I started getting their hearing checked, because I'm also auditory dyslexic, as well as visually dyslexic. I'm also Erlen dyslexic. So when I was getting the girls diagnosed and looked into for hearing and eyes and getting all that checked, that's when they picked up when I was 22, that I had what classed as dyslexia. And they gave me a set of classes to try and help that, which it did. And then it went on from there. Once I'm 55 and I'm a grandma.
Wow, you don't look it.
Beautiful daughters.
You do not look
6. No, and I don't act it. That's the blessing, because they reckon you take off 2 years for every learning issue. So I'm quite happy collecting the learning issues, so I can take some 4 years off. I can just keep picking up.
I love it.
So as a kid, I looked at growing up. It didn't look like a whole lot of fun to me. It looked like a whole lot of responsibility with no fun in that space. So I just didn't want to really grow up, because life's got to be fun and it's got to be fast. I've got that ADD mix, so everything's got to be 100 miles an hour, otherwise I'm bored.
Right.
And I become hard to handle.
Right. Now, there's a lot of dyslexic people that are, well-known speakers, like, for example, Pat Mesiti, who you've worked with. He's dyslexic.
He's phenomenal.
He's one of the best speakers I've seen. He's so inspiring. And, who are some other people that are dyslexic and that we might know of, or who are some famous speakers or authors that we might know are dyslexic?
Yep, DeMartini, Benjamin J. Harvey, Al Beaumont.
Okay, so there's quite a few, yeah. I've worked with Dr. John DeMartini as well, and Ben Harvey, and they're both unbelievable speakers. And I guess the thing is, when you're in business, as they are, they would just need people on the team who are good with words, and you would complement each other in different ways. But there's an element of a genius there with people who are dyslexic too, aren't there?
Look, if you can't function in life one way, because we're all told learning issues or spectrum disorders are a disability. But the way I see life is, disability is when you don't find a process or a way through it. That's when it becomes a disability. Outside that, there's no disability. It's just extra learning in it. So I have a certificate for TAE, so training and assessing. It was harder to get. I'm also studying community services and counselling as a dual diploma. It caused me some issues with also I have working memory issues or rote memory issues. So working memory is where you read something, put it into your short term, then put it into your long term, which means you can then answer tests or questions or go back over stuff. That's a real issue for me, but it's not impossible. It just means that I have to be aware of how much sleep I have, what my diet is doing, what time of the day that I'm working on things. Minimizing technology for me personally, because technology and myself, if I can't hold it and feel it and sense it, I struggle with it. So, but I don't see it as a disability, and I don't see that the world should make it a disability. It's certainly an advantage, because you see things faster and in patterns, so everything has got a funnel behind it, you can put it that way. So the word house isn't just a house, it's a funnel behind it of what a house looks like, what's in a house, how it represents, how it feels, how it functions in your life. So when you get two dyslexics talking, we actually are giving a huge amount of language. Because if you think of a photo, and advertising will use a photo because there's 1,000 words in it, right? If you can't say 1,000 words, you use a photo to give 1,000 words. If you're talking to someone that thinks that way, you're transferring that same information.
Okay.
So dyslexics see very differently and can function in a very fast mannerism and give a lot of information, but we just have a disconnect with words on a written page.
So now I was at an event with Pat Mesiti and yourself. It was called Pathways to Prosperity just last weekend. And Pat actually mentioned you. It was in front of about 100 people from around Australia at Sanctuary Cove on the Gold Coast. And he mentioned you at that event, and he said that you'd helped him with things with his talk. For example, highlighting parts of his talk with a yellow highlighter. He said helped him, for example. What are some other things people can do with dyslexia to help them if they're going to be public speaking or going to be dealing with words in some way? What are some ways that makes it easier for them?
So stress will take you down every single time. So minimize the stress. So some of the ways you can do that, and even some of the salespeople, what I get them to do is put on coloured paper, a coloured paper that suits their brain style. Because if your favourite colour, the reason you've got a favourite colour, it actually makes you feel good. So my favourite colour is electric blue. If I wear electric blue, look at electric blue, think of electric blue, think of what it means to me, it's actually quite calming. It's quite peaceful. And I believe blue is my favourite colour because the ocean, it tends to look blue on a good day, and the sky's blue. So I get quite claustrophobic, and so blue with that expanse gives me the feeling of not being hemmed in or boxed in, because I suffer severely with stress or panic attacks or anxiety. And I have to watch those and monitor those because they can lead back into depression. So anything that makes me feel hemmed in, because also if you think about stress, what it does, or anxiety, it restricts your breathing. It makes your breathing much more shallow. So you're not getting the same oxygen supply to your brain and through your body. So anything that can make you feel calmer, more serene, more still in yourself is definitely a huge benefit.
So things like maybe yoga or going to the beach, things like that?
I do a lot of Pilates, and I like water. Water tends to, because dyslexics also, especially when they've got a mix of what they call a cohort of learning issues, so in that anxiety kicks off. It doesn't matter whether you've got ASD or Asperger's or dyslexia or ADHD or ADD. The amount of people, both adults and kids, have got in trouble for impulse behaviours in their ADD or ADHD. And I get these little kids, and the first question I ask them is, do you want to get in trouble? You know, when they're always getting in trouble in school, do you want to get expelled? And it's like, no, I just do it, Sandy, and then I think about it. And so then they get so anxious to even go to school because they know they're going to stuff up. Instead of expelling and suspending these kids, if we just taught them how to be calm and think about their actions, in a way that they can take on board. So a lot of the kids I do come out and I go, just think of the traffic lights, and before you do anything, stop. Just walk up to a red dot, and a lot of times we just put a red dot on the wall and just turn around and go, you just stop. Okay, now you think you're in amber, you're thinking about it. Now, is the lights going to go back to red, or are they going to go green so you can go? It's just giving that. We walk up to it and we stop in front of the dots on the wall. Or if we need to think something through, we just sit under a coloured dot. And it's really interesting when the dots are on the wall and the kids just automatically go and sit under one of them, or even some of the adults just go and sit under a coloured dot as they're having a conversation. And I go, do you realise you're sitting under the red dot? No, you know, it's really interesting. And they go, oh, yeah, so cool, Sandy. I'm stopping and thinking about my conversation rather than running off at the mouth and not thinking about how I'm having a conversation with you.
Yes, yes, good point. And, you know, it is a very high-stress society nowadays, it seems. We're bombarded with a million messages and people are just running around like crazy. And, you know, just some simple things you could do right now if you're watching this and you're feeling a bit stressed is just take a deep breath, right? Or count to 10, you know, deep breath in, count to 10 and deep breath out. And pause, you know, take time out. I heard a great quote by a guy called Richard Flint from America. He said, slow down to speed up. And, you know, that's often what we don't do. We don't tend to just slow down and sort of reevaluate things. Rather, you know, generally we're like the mouse on the wheel, or I know people in business nowadays at least are like little mice on wheels, and they're just going round and round in circles and you know, often so busy doing what they're doing that they don't even realize that they're busy doing what they're doing, and they kind of just get caught in this rat race and you know, don't take time out to reevaluate their life and think, are they really happy with all elements of their life? Is their life balanced? You know, are they getting enough free time and travel time and adventure time and family time? You know, now coming up to Christmas, of course, family time. Now, this is an interesting time too. So back to dyslexia. So some common misconceptions about dyslexia. You mentioned one there before. So if you could just go through some of the misconceptions and just shine a light on dyslexia.
So the big one is people mostly think that we write letters around the wrong way. That's the big one. They also think that because spelling works in a sequence, okay? Sentences are a sequence.
Mm-hmm.
In dyslexia and that, or even in ADHD, in any of the learning issues, you struggle with sequencing. So sequencing is, they go, why can you spell something wrong 3 times in a paragraph? You know, it might just be a paragraph. I'll spell it 3 different ways. That's because I can't work out which way is right. You know, I before E or E before I can't work it out. The trick with the brain the other day, and I went, E comes first in the alphabet, so E's first. But then, like your words, like your PHs, you know, there's an issue with that. So, and my thing is like, why are we spelling things not the way they sound? And it's because, and I've looked at language going back and back and back, and one of the things I'm just kind of looking at the moment was the ancient languages. And so the ancient Hebrew language was all picture language. Every word they had was basically a picture, from my understanding. I could be wrong, but everything I've found so far is a picture language. And what we've done with English language is we've brought it in from all around the world. So like the Z and the S from America or English in some words, I don't know if it's an S or a Z. You know, some people say it's right this way and some people say it's right that way. At the end of the day, are we getting bogged down on details when there's other details that are more important? It comes down to a value system then.
Yeah, it's interesting. I was just thinking back to, you know, the cave drawings, for example, like the old Aboriginal artwork from years ago, and the Egyptian the hieroglyphics and the pictures that they used to draw in the old day. You know, really, it was a lot of pictures in the early days, and pictures are a universal language, aren't they?
There's a smile.
Yes, a smile is a universal language.
Smile. Yeah. A smile, when you smile, because dyslexics struggle with words. So I'm also auditory dyslexic, and I work a lot with people that get themselves into DB. And so you might be talking to me about an orange cat, and think you're talking about an orange mat. Because not only do I not read correctly, but I'm what they also call auditory dyslexic. So my brain will confuse what you tell me. So if it does then store what you're telling me into any form of short-term memory to get to long-term memory, I will store that information incorrectly. But then, because I'm unsure of myself all the time, and this is where the anxiety and those sort of things kick in. And if you're constantly getting something wrong and constantly feeling like a failure, depression starts to kick in. And so you have that. But also you fight, flight all the time. You're constantly going between fight, flight and fear. If I decided to make fear my best friend, I'd send fear into my fairy godmother.
I like that. Fear equals fairy godmother.
Yeah, because like I'm studying, and I was finding I was just procrastinating, because it was like I was either listening to webinars for my study or I had to read stuff. And so I started procrastinating because it makes me really tired to have to convert information. So there's information inside information inside information that I have to convert all the time in a means and a way that I can use it. It's not simply me read it and understand it, or me hear it and understand it. I have to a lot of work behind that. So I started finding I was procrastinating because it makes me really tired. And so then I started unpacking what procrastination was and why I was procrastinating. It was because I was fearful of getting it wrong. Then I looked at fear, and I saw fear as, because everything's a picture, this black ugly thing that was towering over me, was just beating me and telling me I was wrong and I was no good and I was weak and I was vulnerable, and I don't want to feel those feelings. I didn't want to live in that space anymore. So I went, okay, how can I change this around? What if the things that scare the hell out of me become my best friends and I look at them differently? So I'm putting a workshop together with some friends of mine and some webinars, and I was getting fearful. What if people don't like what I've got to say? What if people, don't understand that sometimes I'll use the wrong word in a sentence? And that can get you into a lot of trouble. That can get in the people I work with, can get them into a domestic violent fight. So I'm very aware even more now how words can get interpreted and then back off it. So I was getting really hypervigilant and heart racing, panic attacks, stress over putting this workshop together, and I just kind of went, this is really silly. What if fear was my best friend, and instead of wanting to destroy me and tear me apart and beat me, what if it wanted to be like a fairy godmother and guide me and strengthen me, so I don't have to feel fearful, because it's teaching me how to be resilient? Because if I don't want to fail, or I don't want people to think I haven't given them enough information, what it actually is teaching me how to stay on track and in guidelines, and how to be the best me I can be. And if I don't want people to not think they're getting value for their money coming to a workshop, then it means that I make sure I've got plenty of information and value the people in that space. So I just kind of fell in love with fear, my best friend, being a guiding force and a strengthening force for me, not something that's trying to destroy me and hurt me.
That's very cool.
And my husband thinks he's being replaced now because I'm madly in love with fear. It's a beautiful. If you can put on a pink pair of glasses and see the world through a pink pair of glasses, why couldn't I do it with fear?
Sure.
Why couldn't I just turn around and see fear in a different space, in a different light? And instead of it taking me down, so even for my study, because I know that I have to use a lot of energy to study, what it does is make me structure my life so I don't fail. I structure my learning and I structure my life. Am I making sense there?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I love that, and I love your spin on fear, because really you've got fear on one side and you've got love on the other. And I love the analogy that fear is false evidence appearing real, right? So it's funny. A lot of the things we worry about, they never come to fruition anyway. So a lot of stuff is just going on in our head when it comes to fear in any area, and fear really does stop people. So I love the way you turn that around and you say fear is a fairy godmother, and to step out of your comfort zone, as Pat Mesiti and many other speakers talk about, to step out of your comfort zone, that's where the growth is in life. When you actually, you go through those barriers, or what you think are barriers of, which fear is obviously one of them. And fear can stop people in so many areas, fear of success, fear of being hurt, so they don't get to, they have intimacy issues in relationships. There's a fear of so many things, fear of, family, fear of, what happens with the will, all that, there's so many things that people fear, what's happening with politics, what's happening with society, what are they going to do? They're going to microchip people now, what's happening with robots, really, when you think about it, you can just go on and on and on, and you can either look at something and fear that, or you can look at it and say, what's the lesson in this, or what's the, look at the love, look at the light, right? So the dark or the light. And actually David Icke was talking about, he talks about fear and love. He's a UK author, which I've interviewed for Truth Xpose TV. He's written 20 books and recently did a worldwide wake-up tour. And on that tour, when he came to the Queensland area, he said, and he actually went to Brisbane and spoke to thousands of people, and he said that, we are infinite consciousness, and people don't realize they're infinite consciousness, and we walk around very closed off. And he said the whole thing about life really is to get that you are infinite consciousness, and you can create and do and be whatever you want, so to not be limited by your own self-doubt and by what other people say. So this brings me down to the question of drugs or of medication, right? Now, I've heard that, say, with depression, the medication that people are given with depression, the biggest side effect is suicide, right, of the medication that people are given. Now, there's been talk of, with vaccinations, for example, that vaccinations can cause ADD and ADHD in children. What are your thoughts about traditional medication that pharmacists will give you as when it comes to dyslexia? Have you been on medication? What do the doctors say?
To go back one step, the false evidence appearing real, false education appearing real as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good one.
And there's been a lot of education out there around, if we immunise our kids, we can bring on autism, we can do this, we can do that. I work back with an allied health team and a doctor, and I think you can't look at people as a whole, you can look at them as an individual. Okay, I trace back my family history, and right back through my family history on both sides, it's been everything from dyslexia, Down syndrome, autism. So we have a gene pool that's got some, if you put it in the world's view, fault lines in it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Down syndrome people, they love you no matter what. Never hurt you, they never hate you. They're just the most amazing, beautiful people that just love on you forever, for everything, and in olden days they used to put them in cages and parade them like they were some wild animal, beautiful, amazing people. Autism, they have some traits that are hard to handle and they're hard to parent, but in that, if you understand somebody, they're amazingly beautiful. Do we sometimes need to use some medication and how my doctor sees it is we use some medication to help them get to where they need to go. So if, like Ritalin, the ADHDs, if they need Ritalin to help them learn in that school time, why their brain is in a functioning space, let's layer as much information as we can in that space. And then, why they're in that space, put whatever their needs are around that. So teach them meditation, teach them how to take control, teach them how to think through processes. Use medication in the means that it's got to. I don't believe medication, you should put anyone on medication and leave them, that's the rest of their life. But I also have seen the flip side of that is where there's been some kids have been on medication, they hit 16, the medication, they either take themselves off without information around it, so false evidence is given to them, or you don't need it now after a certain age. These guys get themselves into all sorts of trouble because impulse control isn't there for them. So they get themselves into all sorts of mischief. Also, the medication makes the rest of the world feel that they're accepted. We can talk to them, we'll engage with them, they've got capacity to learn. When they're not on the medication, they're all over the shop. So what I see a lot of the guys doing is going back and using things like speed or ice to feel like they fit in the world again. And I think we've got to put some new education around in the marketplace to turn around and say, let's have a bit of tolerance on people. You know, like Pat, when he's speaking, sometimes he'll write things on the board, as you know, and the spelling's not quite right.
Yes.
We give him a hard time and go, hang on a minute, you spelt that wrong. Or do we just turn around and go, you know what? We accept it's not his strength, but his strength is being a phenomenal mentor to take you to being the best person you can be, utilizing your strengths and you know, understanding that nobody's perfect. We all have our weaknesses, however they show up. Mine is spectrum disorders. And those spectrum disorders, I've got a client base that's huge in working with people and to turn around and go, you know, you have a disconnect with language. You don't have a disconnect with people skills. You know, you don't have a disconnect with doing anything or putting your mind to achieving anything you want to. You don't have a disconnect with loving your family and loving children and making sure the children in that family unit are protected, because the severe bullying that goes on with anyone that's got a learning issue. You know, we get these kids in school and we put them into a special ed class. What we don't realise is it destroys their little soul. It makes them feel, you know, not the same as everybody else. They're disconnected, but then they also get severely bullied. Oh, you're the dumb kid, or you're the stupid kid, you know. Only got an issue in one area. Why are you hanging them across the board on all their areas? And truth be known, if I had a choice with spectrum disorders, I'd sign up for more of them, because in them is just tremendous talents, tremendous gifts. You've just got to learn how to harness them. And I just get really upset when we don't harness the gifts within them. We just tear people down for them. And I can take that a step further. Like when I have Erlen dyslexia, so I have 6 different reading patterns. My worst if my anxiety and stress kicks in, words on a page just spin out of control.
Wow.
They just go nuts, like I'm in a vortex. But prior to that, I, as a kid, without any knowledge from anyone, read through 6 different patterns. So words on the page would be on one line, and they would move up the page and down the page. And so I would have to try and read over 3 lines to be able to read those words. And so I was doing a workshop and I was writing it on a mirror, and my husband turns around and goes, how can you read that? I go, that's easy. It's only dual. You've got 2 spaces, what's written and what's mirrored. It was actually easier for my brain to compute because in my reading patterns, that's what I did. So I read through 6 different reading patterns, and then if I stayed stressed because I was moving too slow or asked to read out in the main part of the class, it would spin. I actually asked one of my friends, and I was about 7 at the time, writing move on a page for her, like crawl across the page and crawl off the page, and she's like, no. She told her parents, and the parents came to the school the next day. I was removed from sitting with all the girls to sitting next to a boy, which was the worst fate you could get at that age. I just made friends with him because he was just like me. We helped each other. We worked on each other's strengths and weaknesses. In that space, I didn't know why I had been moved away from all the girls, told that I needed to be locked up in a padded cell. I was mentally insane. And I went home, and I'm a pretty tough cookie, so I'll take it inwards, but I also am slow in the working memory of processing what it all looked like and means. So by the time I worked it out and I went to bed as a little 7-year-old laying on my bed crying, I didn't have any friends at school anymore and was getting bullied because I was a crazy woman. I was the crazy girl. I went out to talk to my parents, and then my parents were watching some TV show where a guy did get locked in a padded cell. So that gave me that really strong visual on it. And I never spoke about it again. I was a Pat Mesiti event, and I'd been in an armed hold-up. My mum had died of cancer. My house had flooded. My daughter was having panic attacks. My other daughter had had a child and was having some issues with what seemed like they were testing her for tumours on her brain and all that. It was hormonal imbalances. So by the time I got to Pat, I was really, really broken. I was really in a space of feeling so low. And then Pat's writing on the board, and I'm trying to write everything to keep up with him in my hieroglyphics text, not spelling anything correctly because he talks too fast, as you know. 100 miles an hour, he's going to give you lots of information and you're going to get it, you know. He went to read something off the whiteboard, a quote, and when he did that, he turned around and went, oh, that's my dyslexia kicking in. All the audience read the quote for him and with him. Didn't tear him down. But what it tore down in me was a massive wall. I'm getting emotional now. I wasn't mentally insane and I wasn't stupid. It was the dyslexia had their issues, and set me free. And then I went on a journey, and I went, how many other people are bound up with false evidence, false education appearing real for them? You know, because, and that's what the Belief Systems magazine is. You know, it's about, if we're going to give information or education, let's give real information, real education, and let's speak the truth and not make people feel weak and vulnerable and they can't achieve. This is wrong. You know, the thing out there of, oh, if you have ASD, you'll never get a job, you'll never have a relationship. If you're Asperger's, oh, you don't have social etiquette. Well, if you understand where they're at, you don't expect unrealistic expectations from them. Not being blunt, rude to hurt you. Just don't use fluffy words and do say something. Just don't think about that. Same as people with sensory issues. I'm massively sensory. So a coffee shop, I wrote a story in this book. In this book, having a coffee in a coffee shop, having a meeting in a coffee shop, I have over 30 elements I'm controlling just to have a conversation with you. You know, I'm seriously valuing that conversation because I'm putting me in a higher situation of having to control all those things around me to be able to do that. So at a Pat Mesiti event, especially Pathways, he's dealing is breaking down that money mindset, right? He's converting that money mindset that we've somehow taken on as education, like money doesn't grow on trees. That never made sense to me, because yes, it does. It's paper. Paper comes off of trees. How can you say that? It's a disconnect for me. I was like, it doesn't make sense, you know? It makes sense here. But in that weekend is breaking down a lot of false beliefs and a lot of, you're not valuable enough to spend money on yourself. You're not valuable enough to be successful in life. And so for me, being a censor as I am, I can feel a lot of people seeing doors opened or walls coming down, or them thinking and going, what is the truth out there? Because that's part of this weekend. And as he says, you can come again. You know, you do the weekend, come again. And you need to, because he's working on these systems that aren't real. It's not real. You know, and that's the thing with spectrum disorders. So much of the stuff out there is from medically based, not personally based. You know, and so I like to work from people. Like you can run our brains through a machine and you'll get a whole lot of data. You're not going to get the same data if you ask us questions. You know? Like, why don't you finish a sentence? Man, do you know how hard it is to remember all the words that you want in a sentence, and you've got, you know, a structure of them, and they've got to be in order? And if they're not in order, then we get looked at a little strangely. Certain words that set off fears or set off anxiety, or, you know.
Yeah.
People turn around and go, oh, I'm pregnant. You know, oh, I'm just. There's no just, you know, if you're pregnant, you're bringing a little baby into the world to nurture, to raise, to protect, to strengthen, to educate, to minister to close. You're not just pregnant. You're not just having a baby. And that's how a dyslexic will see it, because it's not just anything. What's just even look like? Justification to make it less than. And it's not less than. And people turn around and go, just use the word just as a flippant word.
Yeah.
No base under it.
Yeah, that's true. Or you know, you hear people say, "Oh, they say." Well, who's they? You know, they say. There's all these funny little things that we say, and you know, are often not conscious about what are we actually saying. You know, or going around the bend. You know, which bend are we going around? You know, like, you know, all these funny little colloquialisms, I guess, in the Australian language as well. And so it's interesting, as a dyslexic, you've written several books, the magazine, Belief Systems magazine. Now, how did you come to do the magazine? And can you tell us a little bit about your books as well, please?
So the book started out because I was at a Pat Mesiti Dream Weekend. That's where it all started. And the concept of that weekend was, you can dream it, you can make it happen.
Awesome.
So Pat told us we all had a book in us, and it was a matter of, you know, what we wanted to write on. So the book, Embracing Dyslexia, Chronicles of a Personal Realization. Of course, my husband's a copywriter, so chronicles and personalization came from him.
Okay.
It took me a number of years to actually remember what my own book was called.
Right.
I liked the title. I thought, yeah, that's fantastic. But what does that actually even mean? You know? So I read the book, and of course there's a picture of Pat.
Yeah, can you bring
My
that closer
husband.
to your webcam, please, so we can have a closer look at that and just say something as you do it?
That's Pat with me and Gary. So I turned around and said, he had a book in us, and so I went, okay. And because he'd mentioned about the dyslexia from stage, I went, I might just unpack what dyslexia looked like for me and how it looked and how it panned out in my life. Even now I read the book back and the people read it and they've gone, oh, I didn't know you were so smart. And even now I write a workshop or I do something or I work with a client and I kind of go, wow, where was that piece of information hiding? See, it never comes to the forefront when you think you're a failure because you keep hiding your true essence of who you are and how you think and how you function.
Yes.
I really think, and it's growing in me, that's wrong because we're all gifted. That's my title is, Sandy Hobley, Embracing Dyslexia, Talent and Traits Analyst. So I'm looking for your traits and your talents because you just and you go, oh, they're not worth anything, like, oh, I'm just a mum. Come on, let's get over it. Who signed on for that job? They knew the criteria of what you had to sign on for. How can you be just a mum? You're in everything to a little human. And saying of, you might be one person in the world, to a person, you might be their world. And I think that's everybody out there, and, even in the spectrum disorders, the amount of organisations and companies will hire someone with Asperger's or autism. Even NASA will actually hire a dyslexic because a neurotypical brain, which is someone that doesn't have any spectrum disorders, will just look at what's in front of them. So if there's a tree, they just see the tree. That's it. Dyslexic brain works such a different way. It will give you all the information around it. It can also come out in a conversation where we don't know what answer you want. We will give you lots of information all at once.
Excellent.
The amount of people tell me and go, oh, Sandy, I have to take a break from you. You're doing my head in.
Right. Well, you're not doing my head in now, although I did ask you about the magazine. So I want to know about your magazine, Belief Systems. So how did that start?
With all the organisations that I work with, one of the things I found, there were so many disconnects. There's disconnects from one service to the next. There's no passing on of information. Some people need multiple services because each service has got their strength. They're financially cashed up to work on a certain program. None of the information was being transferred across to other organisations, and there was no help. You might get a flyer, or you might get this, or you might get that. It was disconnects everywhere, and I went, you know what? I'm just going to put it in a magazine and then share it, so we can all share information. We can work holistically, because I believe it takes a village to raise a child, but it also takes a village as a person. We all need in our lives to help raise us. We need those people that will come around and, like a mentor does, and go, seriously look at this and think about this. We need a coach that turns around and says, okay, let's coach you in this weakness to make it a strength for you. So Tiger Woods in his golf swing, if we coach you in this, then you're going to get better at it. But then he also needs a media coach, which is what you do phenomenally, is you coach around the media and how to utilise that.
Yes.
So if you take that out into a person's life, we all need there for each other and connectively raise the human, you know, which is why I don't think you should say you're just pregnant, because you've got a huge job on your hands. And whatever job you have, you're not just anything. You know, you're a holistic being, and so the BS magazine, and it came about because you can look at it two ways: it's belief systems or the BS we get told. And as a dyslexic and person that's got the cohort learning issues, I was told so much. It's not true. I was told my brain could never change itself. Okay, I was told that I would never be able to use the English language. Well, in my first year of writing the first book, I decided that I found it so much fun and so interesting. And there was 14 generations to Jesus Christ coming to earth and walking earth and changing message on the earth. I thought, if it takes 14, I'll write 14 books. That's what I did, and my husband, who does my editing and copywriting, couldn't keep up with me. So I went ahead to do that, and now I'm gone on to do putting webinars in place. I went on to workshops, and it was really interesting. The first workshop I did, each person that came to the workshop, we actually made them carry a learning disorder. We made, and it was interesting, after we unpacked it and did the workshop, and some of the people that were coming to that workshop turned around and said that they thought twice about coming because they were going to have to pretend they had a learning disorder. But when they realised how much they had to control that learning disorder, so like Spurgis, with always got to know the time, checking in on the time, and you can't mess with time pattern, right? It's on time all the time, every time. Don't mess with time pattern. And then someone with ADHD just jumping out in stopping the workshop all the time. You know, they turn around and the looks they got because they were interrupting the workshop all the time, they kind of went, oh my gosh. They were all exhausted after the workshop, but they said it gave them a huge insight into what someone with disorder is dealing with and working with, and then also the looks. You know, every time the person we got to disrupt the workshop and have ADHD tendencies and get up and move around and start conversations in the middle of conversations, and they said, this is soul destroying. This makes you feel like you've got no friends, everybody hates you, and you're struggling to have that control and that structure in your life, and that's exhausting. The feedback we had from it was really good feedback, and they've gone and they said that they are much better equipped to work with the services. Now, one of them came from probation parole. She's since gone on and had a test for dyslexia for herself. She was also in a relationship with an Asperger's person because she said she thought she was just haphazard and she put a structured person in her life. But she said they just argued on so many things, and it ended up the relationship fell apart. And so then she went and sunk into this very spiral depression and everything else. And now she kind of looked at it and went, well, these are my quirks, these are my traits. These are what I can work on to get better understanding, but also she's got better understanding of what it was like for her partner living with someone that's haphazard and all over the place when you need this main structure all the time. And so she said that's done her the world of good in her personal life. Taking it back into her work life, working in child protection, that also gave her some major insight into maybe someone's doing the wrong thing, but let's look at it and unpack it in a different way and then help and support around them in a different fashion. Also, we tell people things and we expect that they understand it. Like whatever I tell you, one would assume that I understand what you're saying to me and you understand what I'm saying to you. because we're taught not to re-question
Mm.
what someone's saying. And like for some of the dyslexics I work with, you say something to them and then they'll stare at you blankly. You kind of, the people that have done training will go, oh, I need to rephrase my question. So they rephrase it in a different format. Then this poor person is trying to pick the eyes out of the first way you said it, pick the eyes out of the second way, and then they get confused. And because conversations are instant, right?
Yeah.
Trying to put a conversation together, yeah, and they might give you a random answer or misconstrue your question completely. And we just assume people are hearing what we're saying, understanding what we're saying, and being able to utilize that. But that's not true. It doesn't always happen.
Yeah, I saw a great saying once. It said, we don't communicate, we just take turns talking. And often that's how it goes in life. So
Yeah.
we need to come to the end of our show very soon, as much as we could keep on chatting. So how can people get a copy of your books, and how can we find out about the magazine and your workshops coming up?
Well, probably the easiest solution is to send me an email, because I love talking to people. So, send me an email at sandy@embracingdyslexia.com.au. Include your phone number so we can have a chat, because I could, like, I have good days, interesting days, and oh my gosh, I shouldn't have got out of bed days when I can send an email.
Yes.
I actually am thinking of doing a marketing piece that's half neurotypical, so how we're used to receiving information, and doing it dyslexic, and then seeing the feedback from that, going, which one's easier to read? And I'm going to be working with a fair few schools. We've got some great schools that are coming on board going, we don't have a dyslexic program in our school. What can we do, and how can we put and implement that for our students? So we've got some people with just having those conversations with me on the phone going, yeah, I need to get some more education around this, or I need to think about how I'm structuring my lessons, or and a lot of the feedback I'm getting off teachers is not only the information I can give, but what I can also organise is a whole load of people that sit on the spectrum to give teachers feedback, and it's not about tearing anybody down. It's about, false evidence, false education appearing real. So if you've got true education on what it's like to work with people that function a little bit differently, and you can, understand how they function and how to work with them. As a teacher, you get your needs met because you're wanting to educate, you're wanting to pass on knowledge. And I'm certainly sitting in that bracket of wanting to teach, wanting to get people the knowledge, wanting them to have understanding on how to take people to a higher level. And I think we're in a much better position of schools wanting to take it on board, but also teachers wanting to learn it. So
awesome. Fantastic.
Send me an email, sandy@embracingdyslexia.com.au, and put a phone number in so we can chat,
Fantastic. And obviously you're on Facebook as well, so people can connect with you there. So embracingdyslexia.com.au, I presume that's your website as well, so people can find out more about you, yes?
Yeah. And,
fantastic.
Thank you.
That's great. Thank you so much for being with us, Sandy. It's been awesome to have you on the show. And any final comments before we wrap up today?
Final comment. Yeah, dream big. Dream big. Know that you've been gifted with amazing gifts and talents. And no one is broken. I've had a lot of people come up to me and go, well, I can fix your dyslexia. But why would you want to fix something that's not broken? I'm not broken.
Mm.
No. So let's a final comment would be, let's edify people. Let's not make them think they're broken. Because if you make people think they're broken, you're going to lead to more depression.
Yes.
And more suicides and more people that aren't living to their fullest and dreaming their dreams and living them, and you know, and stop taking away imagination from the kids. Let them have imagination. I have a great imagination with my grandson and my grandchildren. We imagine all sorts of things, and who knows what they'll be when they get bigger, you know? It'll be an exciting journey.
And you do look amazing for 55, I must say. You definitely do not look like a grandmother. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much, Sandy, for being with us. Sandy Hobley, Embracing Dyslexia, and we've just been covering the truth about dyslexia. And if you have missed the whole show, you can watch the replay or on YouTube. And if you like what you see, please share it, and we'd love to see your comments. Of course, connect with Sandy on social media as well, on Facebook, and Sandy at embracingdyslexia.com.au. Thank you, Sandy, once again. It's been an absolute pleasure. And thank you to all our viewers. Thank you so much for supporting Truth Xpose TV. Just keep tabs on Aldwyn Altuney on YouTube, and you can connect with me personally too on all the main social media, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Google+, Instagram, and Pinterest as well. So I'd love to connect with you there, and let's go out and create an amazing life for ourselves, because at the end of the day, it is up to you, and it is about your belief systems. And let's go out and make the most of it, because life is too damn short not to. So on that note,
exactly.
Thank
you so much.
Thank you, Sandy. It's been an absolute pleasure, and thanks so much for joining us once again. And we will see you again soon. Bye for now.
Bye.